Hi guys, I'm your host Zoya, and this is Verbatim. Today I'm here with a special guest, Sam, and I can't wait to chit chat with you. So without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sam. I am ageless. I am a Gemini, and I am a beauty brand owner. Yes. The name of my brand is Them Cosmetics. I started around roughly about almost a year ago, and yeah, I'm just can't wait to dive deep in that.
So, Sam, when I was creating this episode about gender expression and, clothing, you were honestly the first person I thought of. Like, it didn't take much thought. I was just like, Sam,
Uh,
oh, who should come talk to me? Sam, like, duh. So
thank
I kind of just
you.
want to talk. I have a question for you. Like, what is your first slash fondest memory of clothing? Like I always think that there's one moment where I remember being like, this is when I finally got to like pick my outfits, and I picked it. Was it good?
Yeah.
Debatable, but I picked
Um,
it.
Yeah. Okay, my first memory, so there's not like an exact memory, but there's like a time, I guess. So it was around the time where I think I was like in kindergarten, like senior K or like junior K. Like you would only go to school half day and then you would like come home for like the rest of the day.
Mhm.
So like around that time, like obviously like my sisters weren't home, so I was like I had like access to like their Barbies and like I'd like play like dress up in like their clothes, and my mom would just like allow me, right? And I remember just being so like infatuated with like feminine clothing, like I was just like, oh, like they were just, it was just always more interesting, and there were like more cute patterns and just like, yeah, just cuter to look at. So around that time, that's when I became, I guess, yeah, expressive and more like into clothing.
Mhm.
And then
Okay.
yeah, and then as I grew up, it was Um, like I didn't really like express that much with fashion, but then I would like still see myself like following like once like social media started like following around, like I would start like following like little fashion accounts and like following like illustrators that would do like women's clothing. And I would just like always keep that. And then like I would like browse like online stores like when like the internet started becoming like a thing and like fast fashion was like a thing. I was like, I would always like browse on that.
I love that. So you're creative. That's what you're really telling me.
Yes.
And
And
as a
then
creative, let me know, who are your fashion icons? Like, you were mentioning about people you were seeing, but who are you following? Who are you grabbing inspiration from?
I mean, okay, as of late, I don't know what it is, like my time, like my explore page on Instagram has been like a lot of like London like school fashion kids.
Okay.
And yeah, no, like I see some of their like some of the shit that they have. Oh, can I cuss out here?
You can do whatever you want.
So yeah, I see like some of the shit that they're making, and like some of their designs, and it's like so crazy. And it's like we don't even know, like half of the stuff that they do is even like exposed to like the pop age.
Mhm. What
Like
do you mean
just
by
like the
that?
small like little designers that we're like starting to know, those are literally just like the tip of like the tip of the iceberg. There's like
Mhm.
so much more like dive deep, and there's like so many upcoming new designers that I hope make it. But in terms of fashion icons, okay, one of them growing up was my mom. So how we got the love to like experiment with clothing and like do our hair in different styles and like have makeup was because of like our mom. She was pretty expressive with like just her overall like vibe, and like how she like presented herself was always very expressive, and she was always changing it up. So she was definitely number one on my list. Um And then it was just also, I would say, like, yeah, my sisters too, like just following them and like seeing who they were like obsessed with at the time. I think it was like Beyonce and like Christina Milian and like I think like Kamora Lee Simmons, who did like Baby Fat.
Okay,
It was like
okay.
it was like them and like whatever they were following in like the teen like magazines at the time.
No, I feel that. And it's really interesting too that you say that, because I really feel like, as much as, yeah, I like to have a name on the top of my head when people are like, oh, who do you like? It's also like you really grow and like figure yourself out as a community. Like watching, like when we started working together, it was really watching like the girlies like put on their different fits together that like really inspired me. And I feel like it makes you like, when you see other people stepping out of their comfort, and it's not them stepping out of their comfort, living, you know, doing themselves and like really emulating that in clothes, is really when I was like, but why can't I do that? Because I have the ideas, or it's really a confidence thing. And as much as, you know, how people be saying like, oh, you're attractive, like attractive is like confidence. Now I'd like to argue a little bit no, because there are beauty standards. But
Yeah.
I do agree with that sense of like, if you're in a community that you feel like people are building you up and like gassing up, but not fake, because I'll be damned before somebody, I'm in a fit and somebody's like, you look good, and you don't.
Right?
Don't lie to me.
Like, you know the fit's actually not, it's not giving. It's not giving what
Don't
it
lie
needs
to
to
me.
give. Really made me comfortable and like wanted to do like the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I have a little controversial question for you. How do
Yes.
you feel about the whole like Harry Styles Vogue cover, you know, I want to say fiasco, but that's not the word, but like, you know, they were excited and they were giving him kudos for doing things. And I'd like to argue that Black and like queer people have been trying to take up these spaces, and have at times, and often gotten a lot of pushback from it. And like, how does that make you feel, you know, when you see those certain
Right? Like that's the
creators getting the heat?
Okay, that's the thing where it's like I'm right there with you. It's like everyone's getting like giving kudos and props to like this cis man because he decided to like wear nail polish and like is now like decides to wear a skirt, right? Where it's like I feel like when like someone like that does it and gets praised for it, it kind of like makes it like they kind of turn it into like kind of like a gimmick, or it's like they're playing dress up, right? Where it's like, oh, I want to make a statement today, so it's like, or it's like I want to be deemed like woke in the sense, like progressive. So it's like let me switch it up, a bit. Where it's like people like moi, where it's like every day, where it's like that's not dress up, like it's like those are like literally my everyday clothes. It's like I wear that on the day to day, and it's like I don't get props for it. Sometimes I do, some people are like, oh, I love your outfit, but majority of the time the looks in the street are always like negative, and you always know someone has an opinion or has something to say about it. So
But what's that like? How do you like deal with that? Do you not engage? Like, what's that?
Oh, regardless, well, I'm someone who is like, I guess I'm
a Gemini.
Like privileged. I'm privileged in a sense where it's like those looks and those stares don't really bother me. Like I know it's like, for me personally, I know it's like something that comes with the territory for me to express myself. Like my queerness like is like putting my happiness first, but I know that's like also like putting my life at risk, in a sense. But yeah, it's like I just try not to disengage. It's like I know it's like I won't put myself in certain like situations if I know like what it is beforehand. Really trusting like my intuition, and just like staying like steering clear of like those.
Okay, that really hits. And I think that's probably honestly why it bothers me so much when I see like people, taking up these spaces, because you have people like Billy Porter, Prince, Lenny Kravitz, just in the sense that like gender expression and stuck in that binary. Because I think the other thing is like people don't understand that like gender and like sex and sexuality almost have nothing to do with each other. And the more like I learn about how like colonial concepts and like settler colonial states have like forced so many ideals on like, and really I'm talking to us Black and POC people, is because it's like it's our histories and like our cultures and traditions that have been like stripped away or changed or like deemed to be like abnormal, and then like somehow they get like reinserted into society, mostly because they watch Black, queer, all these people living life and living fabulous. And the other thing is I was reading this thing that was like, well, it's like expected that people who are like queer and like Black to be, and I'm more stressed on queer than Black, but like to be flamboyant and like extra and all these different things. So nobody wants to sit and like congratulate them. But I'm like, but their bodies were on the line. Their bodies were on the line. What makes it like less
Where
important?
was our roses? Where was our flowers?
Where's
And
the
hand
vote
clap.
cover? Where is
Yeah,
the vote
where's the
cover?
vote
Because
cover?
the other thing is, let's be honest, like the dress was cute. The dress was cute, but those are styled. Those are things that are styled. And honestly, true fashion has no brand. So
Yeah,
cool, it was a
exactly.
cute, Gucci dress, but would it have made that type of wave and like impression if it wasn't a Gucci dress? Probably not.
Exactly.
Real fashionistas just put on clothes and they look good. They'd be like, where is that from? Not like Gucci dress.
Exactly. It's
As you
like
can
I
tell, I'm a
wear
little
the
bitter.
clothes don't wear me.
Sell out. It's too funny. Okay, so on this wave, what does gender and like clothes really mean to you? Like, how do you kind of step out of that binary thinking?
Well, I didn't for the long, well, you see, like, okay, growing up, like as I like obviously got like older and like, like I like would read more and like research and like read up on these things, I would obviously like learn new things. But before, I never thought it would like in my head, like if like a boy wanted to wear like a dress, it shouldn't be a problem. Like I never looked at it as like a bad thing, right? Or if it's like some like boy plays with dolls or something, right? Or like vice versa. I never seen that as like an issue, right? But I obviously knew like that was like obviously a current thing. Like it's like it's an issue. Me over time, I think I just never like seen gender for things. Like I feel like materialistic things shouldn't have like a gender or anything like strapped to it other than it being like a pile of like fabric,
It is just material.
It's literally just material because for the longest time I thought there was like a big difference on like women sizing and men sizing, but I'm like, no, the only thing that was different is that men's traditional sizing, their waist is like lower than like women's waist. But I'm like, higher waist is like the traditional waist. No, I'm like, that's where your waist truly is. So I'm like, that whole thing is like confusing and stupid. And when I figured that out, I was just like, it just comes down to measurements. It doesn't even have to come down whether it's like men or women. It's literally just the measurements.
It's true. Listen, I had big feet growing up.
Yeah.
So a girl like me been knew what my size was in both men's and women's. And you're out here shopping, buying these clothes, and it's like, well, why isn't that's not a difference? Nobody's actually they were shaming me for it, but they shouldn't have.
No, they're actually wrong, but they're like, oh yeah, I know back then, children are brutal. Peers growing up are brutal, have no filter. So I can already just imagine like the shit that they're saying.
No, it's true. It's true. Kids are great because they're honest, but they're also bad because they take on whatever they heard. And it's like you have people spewing these like rhetorics to you, and you're still here trying to like discover yourself and whatever that really means. Mostly because we're constantly figuring ourselves out and changing. But it's like you're here trying to discover yourself, and people are like, you should look like this, and like you should be dressing like this, and you should be like, and I'm like, I want to have parents, strict ones at that. Okay. So maybe not. But also it's like, but we're all in different spaces. I think that was like probably my biggest thing where it was like, yeah, I was like learning, trying to express myself with clothes, but it was also just like, I don't have the resources some of you guys have. And like this expectation you have of me, even like as someone who's cis, is like to perform femininity in a certain way. It's like, and I'm saying this mostly too, because all my life, people always like ask if I was like a guy. And I'm like, I present very feminine. I've had boobs like since I was like 10. Okay. I had boobs before the other girls did. And they used to make fun of me for it, but I was the masculine one. I was like, I never got that. And like, I'd like to argue, obviously that's wrapped up in like a lot of anti-Black, racism that's been like, unconsciously like performed by a lot of people. No, because I'm telling you, I was 18 with braids, and they were longer than this. I made these ones short, but they were long all the way to my back. And I remember this gentleman tapped me on the shoulder. And so I looked up, he's like, excuse me, sir. I was like, sir. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I was like, no, I will fight you because actually there's
No, that's
inches.
the thing. It's like you're obviously like you're femme presenting, right? So it's like he just chose violence.
He did.
Like that's what he did. He chose violence that
He
day.
did. No, or this other time, this guy was like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses. And I was like, yeah. At the time, it made sense to me too. Like, 16 brain, right? So I was like, oh my God, that's true. Then I was like,
Yeah.
do you need 20/20 vision to see I'm a girl?
Like there's yeah, there's levels to it, but it's like, yeah, no, sometimes
Just believe me.
some people just choose to be assholes sometimes. And I'm like, you could have like, what was it recently? Like Halloween. Went to a party like me and my friends, and there was like just like everyone, like obviously like I got stares. I'm like, yeah, don't really care because I'm like, these people like I knew in high school, so I'm like, I don't care. Your opinion, trash, Anyone from high school, I'm like,
boo, tomato.
yeah. No, literally that I'm like irrelevant next. So I'm like, okay. There was like these random guys, and like they were like, I was like outside and they were there, and like was not talking to them unprovoked. One of them asked her like, so how long you been a boy? And I was just ignoring because I swear I was just talking to somebody, and I was like, I'm not paying.
And some days you're like, I ain't got the time.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, you're just being stupid. So, so yeah, I was just like ignoring it. And then like my girl came out, and then she heard that. And then she was just like, yeah, dumbass. If you're gonna come for them, like come correct, like use the proper pronouns, like don't be disrespectful. And like, yeah, you can tell he just wanted a reaction, but I was just like, you know what? I'll just allow you.
How do you feel about the whole pronoun debate when people want to be like, it's hard, or like, I don't know, I'm old, old and dumb, really.
Okay, for older people, like even around like my mom's age, pronouns is like, I feel like to a certain extent, like you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like after a while, it's just like there's like the language barrier because like their vocabulary isn't isn't improved or like advanced as ours would be this day and age, and like trying to like teach them everything and walk them through everything is just like it's too much. So I know that like older people sometimes mean well, and I can pick up on that, I guess. And I can make sense when they're like, when they mean well, but it's just like, it's not registering for them versus like, that makes no sense,
Because then it's like, you think pink being feminine makes sense? It's a color.
Yeah, exactly.
Or actually, what gets me? The people who are like, I don't use pronouns. And you're like, you just said I.
Yeah, like an I is still a pronoun.
It was like, I don't use them. And you're like, no. People are like, I'm a he. And you're like, it's almost like you just used the pronoun.
Yeah, I'm like, stupid. Go sit in the back.
They're like, boo, try again. That's too funny. Okay, well, how do you think, more in like abstractly, like as much as we're in this fight to like degender like fashion and like conversations and just our ideas of what it is to like exist in the world, how does gender affect you though? You know what I mean? Like we can't pretend that we live in a vacuum and that these like ideals we're searching for and like environments we're trying to create don't still have outside, factors affecting us.
I mean, in this day and age, like I say in this day and age, like people from like our generation, like in our age group, because that's who we're mostly surrounded by majority of the time, like people our own age, right? Unless it's like a workplace, but like majority of the time we're always surrounded by our peers. And it's like anyone in this day and age, like unless you're living under a rock or something where it's like you don't know like the basic human decency of just like pronouns, like it's just like it's pretty black and like it's starting to move into like somewhere slowly but surely progressing into where it's becoming like pretty black and white, and you can tell the two difference, you know, like they're not mingling anymore. So I just feel like if you're just ignorant right off the bat, I'm just like, I don't have time for you. And yeah.
Yeah, no, makes sense. It's true. It really is. Like, that's why sometimes I'm just like,
Yeah, because
my biggest fight is Google is
if you
free.
also can't put two, yeah, sorry to cut you. If you can't put two and two together, like obviously if you see me walking down the street and then you still come up to me and you're like, oh, what's his name was asking for directions for the bus. I'm just like, you could have easy just went the route and said person and kept it at that, you know. But I'm like, you clearly didn't put two and two together. Like there's hair, there's the fashion. Like, you know, I'm not your average typical Joe walking down the street, you know?
That's
Like,
funny.
like I'm just like, yeah. And especially too, I've noticed this a lot when I go shopping. Like all the time, like you would think like a lot of retail stores would not want to be like called out or like deemed problematic. So they would train their employees, right? No, that's still something that's like not a thing.
Yeah.
Like, not to name drop any stores, right? But I went into the store, right? And I was like in there, and it was like a really expensive white girl store. Okay. Yes. Yes. So I went in, right? Obviously, like my hair was out. I think I had like even lashes on, right? Crop top on, little cute jean moment, leather jacket, you know, open, like, you know,
Loving.
right? Feeling the zhuzh. And I'm there asking for like a t-shirt or whatever. And then this girl's getting advice from like her other employee, her other associate. And then she's like, yeah, he's like looking for like a button-up shirt. And I was just like, I scratch my head because I'm like, I don't get triggered by that, but I'm just like, oh girl, why'd you fuck up? I'm like, are we still using? We're still using that?
No, because it's true. At best, if you're confused, can't you say like them is
You can stop right dead in your tracks and be like, I'm
they?
sorry, what are your pronouns? Okay, yeah, they.
And
Like,
aside from even like, it's like, why isn't that even just the default for people where it's like, as soon as you're unsure, because it's true that gender is fluid. And so presenting may not always match. However, it's kind of obvious. It's kind of obvious. And most times that it's kind of obvious.
yeah, it's kind of obvious. And I
Did
think
you like want to
also
fight for free? Was that it?
it's because people would rather fight. It's easier to rather like fight and like do that than rather like accept where they went wrong, be called out,
Yeah.
and like fix the solution. Because if they call themselves out, then they have to accept that they're like trash human being, or the way they're thinking was like not, it was like giving outdated.
Yeah, no, because I feel like
That and
people are
also just
too
like
stuck
a
in the
bit of,
idea.
yeah, it's
Sorry, I
also
cut
that
you
and like
off.
a bit of like conflict resolution is what they lack, you know?
It's true.
Because like they think like if she was to stop and say like, oh, what are your pronouns? And I was just like, oh, they, them. She could have easily done that, right? Or if I like corrected her, if I corrected her, right, she wouldn't want to be called out in front of like, I guess like her like coworker, you know, or want to seem stupid because she knows like it's that simple.
Yeah, no, I feel like too, people are really stuck in the sense of like you're either good or bad. You know what I mean? Like you're not a little bit of both, or like that being wrong or messing up makes you a bad person. And like
It's not a
that
bad
doesn't,
thing.
your lack of trying or like your lack of compassion or like you being racist
Yeah.
makes you a bad person, not you not understanding. Like I feel like people forget that you cannot know things. Like that's okay.
That is okay. I don't know things. I'm like, you learn new things every day. I'm like, that is not the problem. The problem is when you go on living ignorantly and
Yeah.
carrying on with your foolish nonsense ways, and then wanna get mad when I call you out for it, right? It's like,
All of a sudden you're crying. You're being
right?
mean. Don't be rude to me. You're
It's
like,
like for battles,
huh?
girly. God.
No, it's honestly probably my biggest fight, the accountability thing, because listen, life is about messing up and making mistakes. But the
Mm-hmm.
moment you want to play like I'm stupid, I'm sorry, like I'm gonna be upset with you. And more
Oh,
importantly, if you want to continuously disrespect people and then they like come and like address you that way or like come correct, being like, I'm sorry, like I'm not gonna come hug and coddle you all day. All of a sudden it's you're being mean, be nicer to me. Why is it expected that I'm supposed to both battle racism or like um discrimination or like whatever and be nice?
and be nice to you when you're literally the one.
I'm supposed to be nice.
Oh
I'm
my.
I'm hurt right now. Like, or if not hurt, but sometimes things can be embarrassing or it can be
It's
just
like, right,
awkward.
I'm the bad guy, right? But I literally just asked for the bare minimum of you to be a basic human being, you know, a decent human being.
It's also no skin off nobody's back. That's my other thing. Unfortunately, nobody has enough good excuses for me. Every time I sit in these conversations and I'm like, so why can't you use the pronoun or why can't you accept like this idea? Nobody ever brings you a good enough thing. It's like, well, my mom and dad, or well, science says, and it's like, okay, right. So now that I've brought science that actually disproves what you say, like now that you have no basis to stand on, what does it take for you to just to use do the preference that somebody wants? Am I beating you?
Right? Like it's like, does it need to get to the point where it's like I'm literally holding you at gunpoint and being like, these are my pronouns, use them, or I'm gonna or get up against the wall and
Get,
turn around.
get up
Like,
against the wall.
like that's the only way. Like I feel like that's the only way. And like unless you I feel like in order for something to stick to somebody with somebody, you have to like threaten them in a way.
Yeah. No, it's true. I feel
Um,
like most people are engaging in these discourses and conversations because they're more afraid of the repercussions and the effects that it'll have on them later once like this becomes normal. Because for instance, everybody loves to, that women love to say, we are the daughters of the witches you couldn't burn. And I just yeah, but if we had social media and we could actually double check, your grandma was throwing the rocks. Okay. When that black girl was going to school for the first time, they were throwing the rocks. They were the ones not hanging out. They were the ones staying with the status quo, which is why I always say that like you have to be anti whatever. It's not just enough just to like not be racist, not to be transphobic, not to be xenophobic, not to be homophobic. Like it's not enough just to not be those things. You have to be like anti those things because
yeah.
society's like built on those ideals. But it's also just like, but what good are you doing if you didn't do anything? I didn't do anything. That's the point. You didn't do anything.
Yeah. I'm like, you're just as bad as the guy throwing rocks. You didn't
You
throw the
know,
rock. I'm like, were you stopping the
because
rock?
I'm pretty sure all 10 hit me. You didn't step in.
Exactly.
I didn't do anything. Oh my gosh, why are you?
Yeah, but
I'm
you
sorry,
also
like
you
the
also
tears
didn't
are
say
not for me,
anything. So you're just as bad.
And then they cry, and you're like, oh my God, if I cry, will I get this sympathy? And then it's not. It's stop crying and
Oh, it's another rock thrown at me. Shut
it's
up. You
another
know, it's
rock.
literally that.
No, it's true.
Like,
It's
why are you
true.
crying? Shut up. Just like throw rock, throw rock.
I'm dead. Okay, well, here's my last question for you.
Yes.
But how, and I'm saying this because I saw this TikTok about it and it was about hair per se. So I kind of want to apply it to clothes, but also like everyone gets affected this. But how do you
Mhm.
feel like gender and the way you're dressed affects the way people approach you? And I mean that more in like relationships, whether it's platonic or romantic, but
Uh-huh.
with the intention of like, I'm trying to engage and stay in your life.
Right. Okay. So I feel like my best relationships, whether platonic relationship, whatever, any sort of relationship that I ever had was always in person rather than I feel like when people see me in person, I'm like more approachable. I'm definitely way approachable. Oh, 100%. I could literally have like a bitch face on, like, don't talk to me. Like, I could literally have like a sign written on my forehead being like, do not talk to me.
Mhm.
And a million and one people will want to talk. Like, it's just
I'm not
like,
joking.
no, literally, no, it's not. But I'm like, I swear to God, if I wasn't dressed like this, because I'm like literally my height. Like if I was literally in like all black, like hair tucked, like do-rag on, like, no one would be talking to me. Like people would be scared. But because they see this 6'4", like giant, like braids, little booties on, like, right. They're like, oh, they like approach me.
Mm-hmm.
So it has like its pros and cons. Pros and cons for relationships. Let's start platonic because the relationships are the more juicy ones.
I love that.
Okay, so pros and cons for friendship, like platonic relationships, is best, hands down, good, like overall good. But I also feel like, um, and a lot of straight friends that I have had, okay, past tense, right? um, kind of took like advantage of like I guess like my niceness and like my queerness and like me being so like open because it's like we're not respected in like places that we come from originally. So it's like we have to like make our own community and like be like open. And it's like anyone who's like introduced into our space where we always open them like we always welcome them like arms open, right? So I feel like pros is that like I'm approachable to people where people like feel safe and like can tell me things, like do you need a place to sleep? Like I'm like that like go-to person. But then gets taken advantage of, So that's the con of it. And then for relationships, I would say, you see, when it comes to relationships, because like for me, I feel like it's a little tricky because with guys, I'm gonna say men, with them, I don't know if it's like they actually want to get to know me for me, or they just want to get to know me for them to fulfill like a fantasy or like a fetish of some sort,
Mm.
Or if it's like we get past that and it's like they want to get to know me, it's like, are they really like comfortable and receptive to everything that I am? Because it's like there's been in the past where it's like I've been in relationships where it's like I would find myself like not dressing as me and try to dress as like somebody else just to fulfill or like be desirable to like whoever like that partner was,
Mhm.
like
Okay,
kind of like changing yourself.
describe your personal style to me.
Oh, my personal style. You know what's funny? I was actually thinking about this. I was like, what is my style? Okay, I don't know what it is, but I'm like, if I had to say, I think it's a bit of like, I'm gonna say like a bit of Y2K. I feel like it's like a bit of 90s, like a hint of 90s. Um, I guess I dress like a little more cutesy, like a little more flirtier. Like I love showing skin. Like skin is like, I love a good crop top. If you ever see me, I'm always in a crop top. Always.
Love.
Like I was literally looking, I was like, oh, all season round, I'm always like in a crop top of some sort. But what would I say my style is? Like lately it's been very like basic, very like everyday essential, like very mute.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Love that. You know what the
No.
other thing is? I feel like I've come to the point now in my life too. I literally know I asked that question of you, but I'm also like, why have a personal style? I like clothes that I look
Right?
good in. I like clothes that make me feel good. I
Yeah,
won't lie.
that's the thing.
I won't
Yeah,
lie. I feel like I've been going the like business casual route lately, but at the same time, like you, I love skin. I
yes,
love to show
right?
skin. Listen, my pops was the other day in the summer was trying to be like, "Oh, you don't own full length tops? I
No,
don't need to own full
excuse me,
length
I
tops."
don't need I don't need full length tops. I'm so
I'm like,
sorry.
"Baby, that's what a coat is for. If I wanted to cover this outfit up, I would have worn a coat.
Duh.
Don't worry."
So I'm coming out with some new products. Stay tuned for that.